Welcome back to the Weekly Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and I'm recording this currently at 12:54 a.m., even though I have to wake up in 5 hours to go to work at 6 a.m., so we're going to try to get to this real quick. Today, I'm going to be talking about 2022 NFL Draft Underclassmen, who should or should not come out of the draft and go back to the college, play another season, or go to the NFL early. It's kind of up to debate for these guys, so I'm going to go through. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 really, split between two sections. They're not divided equally, so we're going to get right into it. I just got done finishing watching the Bills beat the Chiefs on Sunday Football, so I'm a little high energy right now, so if I talk a little fast, I apologize. But we're going to start out with the players who I think should come out immediately. Starting off with Brandon Joseph, safety out of Northwestern. Going into the season, he was one of the highest-ranked players overall. He was the 5th on my board. I haven't gone back and done a double-check on him yet, on my second, scouting area through him. So I know he's struggled a little bit, but he's still in the top echelon of prospects. Definitely still cemented himself as a first-round player for doing so good at such a young age. So I think that maybe these struggles might continue if he stays in the NFL and stays playing for Northwestern, who is typically not that great of a program. I don't have a lot of hope he will come out, and because Northwestern is usually good at retaining kids, but I think that he is right now started out high and is just falling, and I think he needs to come out as soon as possible to prevent that falling from happening and just get drafted as high as he possibly can with the credibility he had before the season if he can't turn it around right away. Also, I kind of accidentally ranked these both sections from the ones I think should happen the most to the ones. I'm sorry, this section is not, but the section after this, which are going to be players who shouldn't come out, I accidentally ranked them this way, but it kind of worked out that way to rank them from how I think this should least happen to most happen. That's for the next section. This section is no particular order. All right, so Brandon Joseph does not have any more claim to coming out early than our next player, Matt Corral, quarterback out of Ole Miss. It's going to be a lot of, you can really insert ex-quarterback, underclassman quarterback prospect here. So Matt Corral, I believe Malik Willis is a undergraduate. If he is, you can lump him in here. I know Desmond Ridder is a senior. Phil Dracovic is a redshirt junior, but I'm not too bullish on him. Malik Willis is a redshirt junior, so you can add him into this category. But I'll lump Malik Willis and Matt Corral here is for that kind of idea. This QB draft class is very weak at the top. So if you're doing good this season, like Malik Willis is, like Matt Corral is, coming out this season is your best bet instead of maybe waiting until next season where you have the chance of falling out of favor with some of the guys who are going to get some hype preseason kind of thing. Your stock is high right now. I would say just take it and run with it and try to get drafted as high as you can by a team who's going to be quarterback needy in this draft, because you're not guaranteed the next year's class is going to be weaker or you're going to grow much more than you are right now and improve your stock that much. So capitalize on a weak QB draft class. Matt Corral and Malik Willis have been having great seasons. Matt Corral's in the Heisman hype. Did kind of just get squashed by Alabama 2 weeks ago. So I'm recording this again Sunday night. So this wasn't Alabama just played Texas A&M, but two Saturdays ago, Matt Corral didn't fare too well. But I still think he's been having a great season. Malik Willis still my QB1, so either of them I think can come out and have an opportunity to be QB1. They're my QB1 and 2, so I think that they both are lumped in this category. Next up is going to be Isaiah Spiller, running back out of Texas A&M. Same kind of argument that I had with the QBs for this one. Running back class, very weak at the top. But I think Isaiah Spiller has done enough and brings enough of a skill set to be considered a late first-round pick. I don't have him graded as like a first-round pick right now, but I think with his skill set and the teams that are going to be picking at the end of the first, it's projected as right now, there will be a lot of opportunities for him to go in that late 20s to 30s range. Whereas in future drafts, like next year, there's no way he'll be the first running back off the board with Robinson, the running back out of Texas, coming out, and you can't look that far ahead. Plus, I don't think he has that much eligibility left anyway, so he has the opportunity to be running back 1 this year, and he needs to capitalize that right now. I can't really see anyone else coming out and taking that running back 1 spot from him. aside from one player, but I'll talk about him next week when we do part 2 of my guys and not my guys segment. But right now, Spiller is my running back 1, and I don't really think anyone can threaten him right now at that position. So he needs to capitalize on that, especially because next year he's 100% not going to be running back 1 if he stays. You'll see a trend here, except for this last guy. Except for Brendan Joseph, the first guy I mentioned, and the last guy I'll mention in this section. All these ones are around the theme of these positional groupings in this draft are very weak. So we had quarterbacks. We all know how weak this quarterback draft class is. Running backs, there are solid options, different roles, but we're different kinds of role-playing running backs. But as a whole, running back class, decently weak. And now we move on to linebackers, where linebackers, I think there's really good mid-round players or day 2 players at the linebacker era. I don't even have a linebacker graded as a first-round pick right now. Closest thing is Christian Harris, but I think that this player, Brandon Smith, linebacker out of Penn State, should come out and capitalize on it because he is this athletic freak. And in a weak linebacker class, having that athleticism and that high athletic edge will help you get drafted higher than, say, you would in a stronger linebacker class with more intangible linebackers, things like that. And there's a good chance that I think Christian Harris could go back to school to Alabama just because he's younger. He's struggled a little bit this season. He hasn't. A lot of people value him higher than what he's shown on tape, just because they know how good he is and coming out of Nick Saban defense and just the historically good linebackers to come out of that defense. But I think he might want to have something to prove to himself. Or plus, Alabama just lost Texas A&M. They've kind of struggled this year. He might want to come back just for school pride kind of things. So I have this weird good feeling that he's going to go back. So if he does, an athletic freak who I have graded as high as I do, he's my second graded linebacker, as Brandon Smith would be a perfect target to come out early and try to get that linebacker 1 spot in like the 20s, mid to late 20s area. And I think he would get that just purely off athletic traits alone. He runs like a 4.3 at like 220 pounds. That's insane. And the final guy in this section, like I said, it's not sharing in the theme we had for the last 3 ones we talked about, technically 4. This is going to be someone out of the edge class. I'm going to say it's going to be Nick Bonito, or Bonito, however you want to say it, from Oklahoma, the edge. He is one of these guys who he is disgustingly light for the position. I'm going to try to find how much he weighs. Let's see. Because you have like these guys who are big, like George Karlaftis and Hutchinson, who are like 280, 290. He is right now, I have him listed here on my big board at 6'3", 240. He's very thin for his position class. But his tape is so bursty, so bendy, and he's got some moves and some power in his hands despite him being smaller. Like, he wins really well. And I think that staying in college, he's shown all he can in college. Like, I think that there's nothing that staying in college another season will be able to show anybody that they haven't already seen. And I think that going to the next level, going to an NFL team and getting into like their weight room or their strength and conditioning coach, his regimen, he'll be able to add like another like 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. And being around 250, that's like what Jerry Hughes is at, where Azeez Ojulari was at, 245, I think he was coming out of the draft. So he'll be able to solve a lot of problems just by getting to a greater strength and conditioning program in the NFL. I know college is really good with strength and conditioning as well, but I think that NFL teams can grab him and mold him into something that is better than his college product is, and his college product's pretty good. I just think that getting into those weight programs sooner will be beneficial for his career off the edge, and he can then work his way into the NFL, because regardless of if he stays for another season, I think he'll still have to come to the NFL and go into those weightlifting programs and still work his way in. Just getting a season ahead on that will mean the sooner he'll have a starting role, and the sooner a team will be able to get him in and make a decision on a veteran that they can cut for him and stuff like that. He'll just be kicking the ball and getting the ball rolling a year sooner on him and getting him more money, stuff like that. And that's it for players I have coming out. I know the more interesting one is who I think should stay. This is kind of me taking my shots at players who I think haven't really lived up to their potential or would gain from staying in college for another season. But before we get to that, we have, for a podcast first, an ad to run. So I'll catch you on the other side of that. Attention all Weekly Huddle followers, I have a huge announcement. I have joined up with Caleb from KillPro88 on YouTube to help work on a draft and dynasty football database. It is called the Dynasty Index and contains detailed content revolving around both dynasty fantasy football and NFL draft coverage. On this new platform, you will find dynasty player rankings, NFL draft prospect rankings, detailed player scouting reports, and much more. I am so happy to be working on this project with Caleb and the rest of our contributors, and we've already gotten so much information and exclusive content on the site ready for you to dive into. I personally have been putting a ton of effort into this, and am recommending you check it out. The subscription prices are $3 a month or $20 a year, and if you ask me, you get way more on the site than what you're paying for, so it's a definite steal. If you are interested, contact Caleb on Twitter at KillPro88 or email him at calebschmidt7@gmail.com. Once you get your subscription, you'll have full access to the Notion server, and will even be able to have access to it through the Notion app on your phone. So don't wait, subscribe now, and get access to one of the best draft databases and dynasty ranking sites. Alright, welcome back to the podcast after our ad. Great ad read by myself, so good job, Past Owen. I am excited for that project, and I'm looking forward to it. But right now, we're going to keep talking about players I think should go back to college after following this season. Like I said, unintentionally ranked this one from the ones I think the least of. Like, I think that, like, maybe this one I'm kind of, like, on the edge, but I can probably make an argument or a case to stay. To the ones at the bottom of this list are going to be like, yeah, I think 100% should stay, no matter what. First up, we have Drake Jackson, edge out of USC. This is why he's at the bottom, right? Like, the one I'm kind of the most iffy on. He is currently my number 2 edge rusher, and he's amazing. He's really, really good. And he's probably going to be a top 10 pick, top 15 pick. But projecting into the next season, with how many guys are looking to come out now, all the seniors, and with Kayvon Thibodeau already having been hyped up, it's going to be he's not going to be the number 1 edge drafted. There's no way he's taking over Thibodeau, despite Thibodeau's injuries and stuff like that. I cannot envision a world where someone takes a swing on Drake Jackson over Kayvon Thibodeau in this draft. But he has number 1 edge rusher potential for a draft class. Like, he could be the guy who was number 1 overall because he's an edge player and he's that good. It's just not going to happen with Kayvon Thibodeau in the same draft class as him, or Marvin Leal. Those two guys are going to take that spot for him. But if he goes back to college at USC and plays, or even goes back to college and just plays a couple of games and then just trains for the combine and stuff like that, I think he could be a potential number 1 overall draft pick if he just stays one more season. Now, I know, being top 15 pick, just fuck it, take it, go to the NFL, become that, and just start playing the NFL. But if you want that number 1 overall pick notoriety, that number 1 overall pick money, things like that, being an edge rusher in a class that doesn't have already a clear-cut number 1 edge rusher is the way to go with that. That's my argument for Drake Jackson, which is going to be the one that's the one I'm probably going to fight hardest on. This one, I'm gonna move him down. I originally had him placed here at number 2. We're like, but I'm gonna move him down because I think I'm pretty certain he should go back to school and not come out this season. But so we'll come. I'll bring it back up when I get to him. But I'm moving him. Calling an audible right now. This ranking was made before this past weekend, so these were made in the middle of the week. So I'm gonna go to my next guy, really the third one I had originally, but now he's number 2. Zamir White, running back out of Georgia. I made the argument earlier that Isaiah Spiller should come out because it's a weak running back draft class, and he's clearly not going to be the number 1 next year just because of Bashan Robinson out of Texas. I don't remember what his first name is right now off the cuff. But right now, Zamir White isn't really considered to be that number 1 guy. So I really think that him going back, because the biggest knock on him coming out this season was he didn't have a lot of snaps from 2020. He was like a strictly goal line guy, and he had very limited film on him. This year, he's got more film, and I like what I see from him, but I just can't. I need more consistency. I need more film on him. Like, I know like I said, he's got more than he did previously, but I think waiting it out and putting more things on tape and working on the smaller nuances of his game before coming out and still working in that deep rotation that Georgia always has will be beneficial for him, and he'll be able to come out and challenge running back number 2, which I don't really think is an option at this point because I like I'm blanking on his name. Running back, Michigan State. Oh, God, what is his name? Walker. What is his first name? Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. I like him better than Zamir White. I like Kyron Williams better than Zamir White. I like Anais Smith from Texas A&M better if you want to count him as running back. I like Zach Charbonnet better. I like Breece Hall better. So Samir Wright is right now is running back number 7 on my board. But if he goes back to school another year and plays on that Georgia O-line, behind that Georgia O-line, and doesn't, suffer a big injury and just keeps playing the way he has been, he can probably challenge for running back number 2 next year. So, number 3 is going to be Kaiir Elam, cornerback out of Florida. Like I said, this one is a little more iffy. He's doing really well this season, and people were talking him up as maybe being better than Derek Stingley before the season started, specifically guys over at the one dude, I can't remember what his name is, which one of them was from the draft network, but he was talking him up as like, oh, cute cornerback 1 potentially. And I was like, oh, and I got into him and I was like, yeah, he's good, he's big, he's long, he's physical, he's very athletic. But I just didn't like his intangibles, especially in zone coverage, his awareness. He's done good this year, but I think if Kaiir Elam came out next year, he'd definitely be quarterback 1 coming into the, in the preseason polls and everything, he'd be the cornerback 1 for the draft. So I think, again, it's another thing like Drake Jackson, where it's you can come out and still be top 20 pick because you're that good at corner, but you have the potential to be the number 1 corner and a top 10 pick if you just wait it out another season and keep building on your intangibles and things like that in college. So that's my argument for Kaiir Elam. Another player who's in a stacked class for this year is Daxton Hill, safety out of Michigan. Lightning fast, like track speed fast. It's kind of disgusting how fast he really is. And I think that if he was in a class that didn't have Kyle Hamilton and Brandon Joseph, and then also Jaquan Brisker and Jordan Battle, he wouldn't have to fight for. Like right now, he's in a battle for safety 3. Right, like it's crazy, but I think that with his skill set and his athleticism, he could be a safety 1 prospect. So again, bring back the argument for Spiller and Elam. But for Hill, it's even more so because I think that he is a genuine game breaker. And going back for another season and letting him get more acclimated to multiple different roles in a defense, because right now they play him a lot at like strong safety. Sometimes they'll flex him back at free safety and let him come down and play the run. He plays the run really well. But I think if Michigan if he went back to Michigan and made it clear that he wanted to be played at slot corner, at outside corner, at free safety more often than not, anywhere else, he can really come out and show, like, not instead of being like the robber, he's the deep guy, and show that speed in his range consistently on tape. I think that if the Michigan State or the Michigan University, Michigan coaches can do that for him, he could be like a top 5 pick. So right now he's like a top 30 kind of guy. He's safety 3. Even if the other 2 safeties weren't in this class, I still think he'd be top 30. He's not, all that in a bag of chips like the other 2 are. He's really good. He's just not like a top 10 kind of prospect. But if he goes back and then shows his flexibility and his versatility in that defense next year, I think he could be way higher. Next up is Zach Harrison. I was never, ever a Zach Harrison fan. From the pre-draft or from the pre-season scouting process to now, I didn't like him. I saw him rated highly by Matt Miller at the beginning of the season, and now the Draft Network is rating him higher too. They have him in their first round mock draft, which I think is asinine. He's a big guy. He's a big body dude from Ohio State who has some flash plays and is athletic for his size, but like, he doesn't do any of the nuances of the game right. He needs to go back, reset himself, work on the intangibles of his game, his hand placement, his run defending, his awareness of the game, his awareness of where the ball is, and come back and then match the physical side of the ball, the physical side of the game, which he has, and really just put it all together with the mental side, and then I can maybe see him as like a day 2 pick. But right now, I have him ranked as a round 6 or round 7 draft pick. And if he really wants to be considered one of those top draft picks, he needs to go back to school at least this season. I'm going to slot the guy I had earlier in right here, and that's going to be Spencer Rattler. So for Zach Harrison, I can make the argument that he's a ball clay that you can take into the NFL, and if he came out, he'd get drafted higher than I want him to be drafted anyway, because the team could think, oh, I can, work on him myself and get him working on that. Like he's super athletic, so yeah, let me work on him instead of going back to school and getting worked on. But Rattler, he's kind of similar. He's very, very good, but the NFL is leaning more towards playing these rookies early to let them learn through getting their bumps and stuff like that, as opposed to sitting them. I know Mahomes sat, but like everyone else, like Kyler, Allen, Wilson, Lawrence, Trey Lance to a lesser extent right now because of Garoppolo's injury. All these guys, Mac Jones, all these guys who are playing are getting their learning from playing right away. I think that would harm Spencer Rattler because of his attitude, because of his maturity, and because of the struggles he has as a passer, especially with his pocket presence, which is going to be a bigger issue in the NFL than it is in the college football. I think Rattler needs to return to college. I think he needs to return to college, and I think he needs to leave Oklahoma. There's no way he's starting another game for Oklahoma after what just happened against Texas. He got pulled out after the Texas was blowing them out. Rattler got pulled after playing horribly, and this redshirt freshman, I guess he was a true freshman because he was a freshman last year but couldn't play because of COVID or something, whatever. Freshman came in, brought them back, and they won in the Red River rivalry. There's no way Rattler can show his face to Oklahoma fans and take over and win, be their quarterback ever again. I think that maybe he should transfer to Clemson. I'm not a big fan of Uiagalelei, but that's my own opinion. But I don't think that with the struggles he has playing wise right now, and the way his stock has fallen and his maturity level, not only for where he's going to be drafted opposed to where he thought he should have been drafted, and his maturity level for when he's going to be benched in the NFL or struggle early on in the NFL, I think he needs to go to a place like Clemson or Georgia, rehabilitate his image, potentially throw himself back into the first overall pick conversation, and then get his confidence back up, because without that, he's going to struggle to learn the game and struggle to get better as the seasons go on, either whether he's benched or losing games, because he's not going to win games early on in his career. If Trevor Lawrence can't, Spencer Rattler, there's no way he can, even though he's up there with Trevor Lawrence and arm talent. There's no way, maturity-wise, mental-wise, and like the small nuances of the game of that is coming with playing quarterback in the NFL that he just lacks right now is going to help him win games in the NFL. I just don't believe it. All right, so we're going to finish out with some receivers. First up, we have John Metchie, wide receiver out of Alabama. Came in as my wide receiver 3. I loved his tenacity. He played much bigger than his size. He was the deep threat in place of Jalen Waddle when Jalen Waddle was hurt last season. But he has just shown a lack of being able to be that over-the-top threat now. He's been passed up on the depth chart by like freshmen and things like that. He's working exclusively out of the slot. He just doesn't look like himself. His hands were horrible against Texas A&M. A lot of drops. I think he needs to come back another season and re-find his 2020 form. Maybe that's just the role he has to play, and being forced into a number one receiver role was just not what he is. But we need to know that before he can be drafted anywhere higher than a late round flyer. Because if he's fallen off from year 1 to year 2 this bad, I don't know why I would draft him. Where I can get other guys in this kind of deep wide receiver class that didn't have that kind of fall off from year 1 to year 2, or was either steady or improved. I think Metchie needs to go back. He needs to find the role he's most comfortable with and needs to excel in the Alabama offense, which has a Heisman candidate quarterback, before coming to the NFL, or he's not going to be drafted nearly where his talents should be drafted. And finally, we're going to finish this out. This kind of ties with the Spencer Rattler one. I said he should transfer to Clemson. And I think both Clemson receivers that are draft eligible this year, Justin Ross and Joseph Degata, need to come back to college. Degata more so than Ross. Ross probably should just go to the NFL just to avoid getting injured again, and because his stock is going to fall just because of injuries and stuff, even though I'm not that impressed with him as a player regardless. I actually have Degata rated above Ross, but Ross might always want to come out just so he doesn't have to keep getting injured in college, and can maybe rehabilitate himself as a player in the NFL and stay healthy there and not risk getting hurt. And for no money or for no Super Bowl rings or anything like that. But they both struggled mightily this year. They're not succeeding in route running. They're not giving Uiagalelei a lot of options. I think if they both came back, they would have a chance to improve their stock a lot, especially if they got someone like Spencer Rattler to come play quarterback for them. They just need to come back. They need to get more snaps, especially Degata. Degata needs to get a lot more snaps and find a quarter and needs get his chemistry back up with either Uiagalelei or whoever they have playing quarterback, because his chemistry is woeful right now. Both of them, even though there's not a lot for Ross, their 2020 film was better than 2021 film. Ross specifically, you have to go back to like 2018, 2019 to get good film for him. Degata need to take another step up. They took a step back this season. They need to both take a step up, which I think can only happen in college if they want to be drafted anywhere close to where their talent level would suffice. But anyway, I'm mind-numbingly tired right now. I have work in 4.5 hours, so I still have to sleep. So I'm going to let you guys go. I'll have this edited and out, if not tomorrow, by Tuesday. And I'll probably have another draft one edited and out by Thursday. So look forward to that. I'm going to double up. I slacked this last week because birthday week, so I was slacking a little bit. But I'll make up for it, guys. I promise. Check out, if not, just take a 1 month $3 subscription to the draft or the Downy Stands index. That's all it is, $3. It's as much as like a burger from McDonald's, Swing that your boy's way. Check out the great content. I personally love the content we have on there. And just help support your friendly neighborhood YouTubers that are trying to make it in this crazy sports world. I'll see you guys later.